Newcastle 4, Girona 0. And wow, Newcastle, particularly in that first half, those first 20 minutes were unstoppable, creating chances, going at Girona, causing a lot of issues. The high press of Newcastle was so effective. The 4-2-3-1, the transition, it worked well. Joelinton with a monstrous performance in midfield for Newcastle. His physical ability to win those second balls, to eat up ground, to win his duels makes such a difference to Newcastle. And I think Joelinton's injury was just so key to why I think Newcastle fell off a bit last season. I mean, all the injuries, but Joelinton, Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali midfield, three when they're all back could be special. Isak was just dribbling around players, absolutely toying with them. Jacob Murphy's just been unstoppable in pre-season. The Miley guy wasn't even Lewis Miley. It took me a few minutes to realise that. He looked really comfortable, really good. I mean, Newcastle were brilliant. I thought Lewis Hall worked really well, Anthony Gordon, because of his ability to invert midfield. Isak was running around people. Newcastle looked absolutely brilliant. And what Newcastle looked was sharp. The energy they had in the high press, it meant going forward, in the movement being quick. And there's no doubt that Newcastle have the quality. Like, I will say this as a Manchester United fan. Newcastle have the quality and Newcastle play good football under Eddie Howe. It's just about how can they continue that throughout the season and how long will they be that sharp and that fit until the injuries pick up, until the fatigue gets in. That is the problem with Newcastle, because when they're on it, athletically, they're unbelievable. They're good to watch. And, Girona are a good team. I think they got top 4 in La Liga last season. And Newcastle tore them apart. I mean, the 4-2-3-1 worked really well. Lewis Horner for Anthony Gordon, they worked really well on the left-hand side, because Anthony Gordon can make those inverted runs into midfield, but he can also overlap. Not Anthony Gordon, Lewis Hall at left-back. He's able to invert into midfield and make those sort of inverted runs, create space, but he's also able to overlap. I thought that Newcastle just looked really good. And what you notice about Newcastle is the identity is there. Anthony Gordon was back like he never left off. One chance, one goal. Very Anthony Gordon goal. But the transitioning, how devastating they were in transition was crazy. How their movement. And they also looked a lot better in build-up. You could see the improvements in build-up. You could see the improvement in play. But it was when they were on the transition, they had opportunities. Newcastle were devastating. And that's why they caused PSG issues last season. And Newcastle on the transition, we know how threatening they can be. They can beat the big teams when they're fit, they're on their day, they're firing, because they've got that energy, they've got that movement in it. And I think they just looked fresh. I think the press was good, the transition was good. And if they maintain that freshness and bring in Mark Gay, wow, what a signing that'll be for you. I'll probably do a video on that when that deal's sort of done, or literally on the verge of being done. I mean, it is probably on the verge of being done, but once a bid's been accepted, I'll make a video on that. But adding Gay to that potentially winger, maybe it's Madueke with Neto going to Chelsea, maybe it's someone like Kulu, you've been linked to of Tottenham. I think you add, as good as Jacob Murphy's been, I think if you want to compete with the big clubs, Murphy and someone on the right, Gordon and Barnes on the left, Isak up top with Wilson as cover, that is a very good front line. You scored the same amount of goals as third place Liverpool last season. You're improving the back line with Gay. You're going to have Tonali. It's basically a new signing. Joelinton, if he stays fit, makes such a difference. Newcastle have a very good team. And I think people will write off Newcastle. I think when people do their prediction, they will put Newcastle 7th or 8th. I think Newcastle can get top 4 with Mark Gay and a right-wing signing. I think they can get back in the Champions League. They're not in European football, but the quality of football Newcastle play when everyone's fit, what Eddie Howe brings and the quality they have, if they stay fit, is one of the best in the league. And I'm saying that as a United fan. I generally think that people will sleep on Newcastle this season, and if they don't have injuries, they will have a very good season. And this isn't just because of a pre-season game against Girona. This is because of what you saw when that squad was fit last season, and the fact that the new signing Lewis Hall didn't really play to the end of the season, but he did play, it was good. Liveramento's, only played a bit here and there, but Livermento and Lewis Hall, they're finally signings now. They're going to make their impact now. Harvey Barnes probably won't be injured, probably make his impact next season. Tonali, all the new signings of last season probably going to make a bigger impact this season. Mark Gay coming in, a right winger coming in, Isak, keeping Gordon, keeping Bruno. I think that's so key for Newcastle. And I do want to talk about Joelinton. I do want to talk about some of their players, but I did think the Newcastle looked really good. Their build-up looked a lot better. The 4-2-3-1 worked really well. They were building out with these 3v3s, and Hall inverting in midfield allowed Newcastle this kind of tactical versatility. And honestly, he was doing really well linking with Gordon. But what worked was just the electricity of Newcastle United, how fast they were. I think Joelinton's ability to win the ball, win the second balls, his physicality in midfield was brilliant. And every time he got the pass, he would play it forward quickly, and he put Gordon in key positions. And Newcastle's press, their ability to win back the ball and then move it quickly and hit them on the transition made a difference. I think the biggest difference was just the fitness in Newcastle, the fresh legs, having key players back. But let's talk about Joelinton, because I think Joelinton was a massive miss, because when Joelinton and Bruno Guimaraes play together, that midfield is a good pairing. And I think you've got Joel Willett, that's a really good player that was injured most of last season. Lewis Miley's obviously got potential. Jamie Marley looked quite good as well. Longstaff, I think, is one that, he can do the job, but I think he's not to the talent of the other midfielders. You did lose Elliot Anderson, which I think was because of PSR. I think Eddie Howe made a comment saying he didn't want to lose Elliot Anderson. And then obviously, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Willock, Joelinton. There's some really good midfield options for you. But Joelinton, other than his finishing, his heading, he's got it. I mean, sometimes he's not the most clinical in front of goal, which is weird because he used to be a striker. But his ability to win back the ball, his ability in the press, he's so good in terms of counter-pressing, winning back the ball, winning the first balls, winning the second balls. He gets the ball, and when he gets the ball, he just drives it forward. I think because he's such a physical player, he can cover large spaces with and without the ball. And those large space players are so far out in the world of football. There's a reason Aston Villa signed Amadou Onana. There's a reason Brighton signed Matt Sweefer. And there's a reason why I wanted those two players to come to Man United. Big space, physical players are going to be the new meta. Arteta's trying to sign these 6'2", 6'3" players. There's a new thing in football where these physical players in midfield is what every big club's going to want. And Joelinton, someone that can cover large space, someone that's physical, is what you want in midfield. And Joelinton was unbelievable tonight. He's a machine. He's a destroyer. He was so missed by Newcastle last season. And when he's fully fit and he's in midfield, him nicking possession in the middle of the park, him winning the ball back, and when he gets the ball, driving forward in possession, his ball progression, his physicality to carry. He's an aggressive ball carrier, a ball winner, the physical monster in midfield. And he wins those balls, and he makes such a difference to Newcastle because he improves the physical flooring. He's the guy that can do the dirty work that some of your other players don't have the physicality to do. How he started as a striker and has been involved into this midfielder is, I think, one of the best footballing success stories in terms of player development in the Premier League in recent years. I think the change in Joelinton, I have to say, but he was so key in the press. He was literally the heartbeat of the press. He was the monster that was winning the ball, and he was dominating the midfield. He was dictating play at time. He was getting the ball forward, driving forward. You could just see how much Newcastle missed Joelinton. I think you can also see how they missed Willock and his ability to drive forward and make things happen, because those two players really would get the ball, make things happen from midfield, and take the dominance of Bruno Guimaraes to do everything. And you could see Joelinton, his confidence, his energy, his aggression, his work ethic. He really sort of helps. I wouldn't say he's someone that dictates play, but set a tone in a sense of be the big man, cause the havoc, win back the ball, cause the issues. He was honestly brilliant in terms of his aggression, in terms of his ability in the press. He makes such a difference as well. And, the Jamie Miley guy had a good game. He won his duels, he won his tackles, he made 2 key passes. He looked very comfortable next to Joelinton. And I think because of Joelinton's physical abilities, it means that you can play someone next to him that's very technical and can help in the sort of build-up phase, and it works. And I think Hall inverting into midfield next to Joelinton seemed to work really well for Newcastle. But do you know what? I want to talk about that Sanusi guy. Honestly, he looked really good. Probably said his name wrong. Murphy looked good, but Alexander Isak, the penalty he won. Alexander Isak, in terms of natural talent, top 10 footballers in the world. In terms of natural talent, top 10 footballers in the world. He is one of the most all-round complete strikers. I think he had the best goals per game ratio in the Premier League, or goals per minute ratio in the Premier League, better than Haaland. Outperformed his XG better than pretty much almost every striker. He can dribble, he can pass, he knows when to run, he knows when to move, he's intelligent, he can score, he can finish. What can't Alexander Isak do? His hold-up play, he can head the ball. He's such a strong, quick and skillful player. In terms of natural talent, you don't get much better than Isak. His ability to drop deep and create, his ability to dribble, his ability to go out wide. He can even play as a wing. I think that's why he gets on the wing. He even gets compared to Thierry Henry because his ability is so comfortable in the wide channels. He can run the right channels. He literally got the ball. He dribbled past 3 players, won the penalty. I think he was unlucky not to score the penalty. He should have had a goal today. It was unbelievable. Isak he's just a different level of talent. I think every time I watch him play, he reminds me of that, Henry kind of esque. In that sense, the dribbling ability. He basically got 2 assists playing good balls into Gordon and Murphy. He's one of those players that can assist, that can dribble, that can pass. He can do it all. Haaland's a natural goal scorer. He's someone that improves the team, improves the players around him. Very, very good player, very good performance. But I want to talk about the Sanusi guy, whatever, Sanusi, whatever you call him. I'm saying his name wrong, but I remember reading a thread about this guy a couple months back. A guy called Tom Talks 2 made a thread on him months ago, and he compared him to Doku, or the Man City's, Newcastle's Doku variant. And I'm always really interested in who's the best youth coming from other clubs. So I do like to read those kind of things, and I can see exactly what he means, because 1v1, his dribbling, he wanted to take on his man, make things happen. He looks like a really, really exciting player. He came off the bench for Anthony Gordon, and he was just so eager to impress. And his movement, his pace was really good. His 1v1 ability, every time he got the ball, it was direct. He went forward. It suited that 3-2-1 positional play. Decision making looked very mature for his age, and I think he's got the attributes to be a top player. And in Eddie Howell, he could be molded into an even better player. And I think he looks good. He looks like a player that I can see why Man United and Liverpool may have looked at bringing him in the academy. He looks like a different level of talent in terms of dribbling, in terms of decision making. He was very good. His final ball will probably naturally improve as he develops, and that's normal. We have that with Garnacho, raw talent, loves to dribble, make things happen, but sometimes his final ball can be better. That's what you get with young players. That's what you got with Ronaldo at that kind of age. Not saying he's going to be Ronaldo level, but for a young talent, he looked very good. So I say him and Isak were the standout in attack. Gordon looked like he never left. Murphy scoring seems to just be a thing that Newcastle are doing. Defence didn't have a lot to do. We didn't really speak about the defence as well. I didn't really watch that much of the second half, I'm going to be honest. I only really tuned properly into the first half, but that's where the goals came. But Newcastle looked very good, and I think now they had the bulk of their squad. They had Gay to that. They had another winger for depth, and they've got a very good squad because Livramento and Hall, technical ability, I think their build-up's going to go up a level this season. Mark Gay coming in. Like, Newcastle have a very good squad, and I will admit that if they get Gay in, what a signing that is.